Hey now, we are getting over, and I am the Silver King, Adam Silverstein, here to lead you through these hard times. With your 2024 WWE Clash at the Castle Scotland instant analysis. That's right, Getting Over is back once again. We are here just moments after WWE Clash at the Castle went off the air to break down everything that happened on WWE's latest premium live event. We're going to be talking Drew McIntyre against Damian Priest, Cody Rhodes against AJ Styles in an I Quit match, and the entire 5-match card, along with some extra items as well. All of that coming up on this special edition of the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. On the way into the show, allow me to kick it off quick with a reminder that Getting Over
is all about the fire.
So please, folks,
stop being marks for yourselves and go back to being a mark for me.
Go back to being marks for the Silver King Adam Silverstein, vintage Chris Vanini, who will join us momentarily, and the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. Head on over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Leave a 5-star rating on Apple. Take a little extra time. Leave a 5-star written review. If you do, we will read it live right here on the show. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Getting Overcast for episode drops, news, analysis, highlights, all of that good stuff. It is also where you can send in questions and comments for the show, and around PLEs and pay-per-views, you can vote in our pre- and post-show polls. Let us know what you think about those shows. That factors into our analysis, both through the episode and at the end, when Silver King and Vintage give you our pre- and post-show grades. Please also remember,
I happen to love the number 5.
and I hope you do as well, because for $5 a month or $50 for the entire year, you can become an official Getting Overhead. Just visit buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Sign up. You will get bonus audio, instant reactions to the big wrestling shows all week, along with exclusive news posts every Friday. Again, that is buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Now, because this is an instant analysis show, normally this is the time where the Silver King would crack open a cold one and enjoy it with all of you, and probably criticize Vintage for having a beverage that is not up to my standards. Unfortunately, I'm still dealing with an illness, so I have a 40-ounce water bottle in a Walla water bottle filled with ice water. Absolutely loving it. High-quality H2O only for the Silver King. But Vintage, what do you have over there?
Something that's probably, again, not up to your standards, but it's
Probably not.
I may pronounce this wrong, but it's a Schlafly Raspberry Hefeweizen.
That sounds okay.
It's brewed out of St. Louis. It's an ale brewed with raspberries. It's not a fruit flavored beer. It's literally fruit beer.
Yeah, no, I love fruit beers, and actually, I think they're pretty trendy right now. Those are some of my favorites. So no, that is not only up to my standards. I think that's something I'd love to try. So we're on.
All right. But been a while since I had one of those that you actually approved of.
Well, because you're pulling out seltzers and Schlitz Light and crappy beers that you find in the back of your refrigerator. You're not preparing for the show. Here, you actually have something worthwhile. So no,
we go.
You're on point. We're on. And by the way, having a nice bit of alcohol for a Scottish show, I feel like is appropriate. We probably, if we thought about it ahead of time and I wasn't sick, should have got some scotch and enjoyed some of that during the show. We didn't think about it that way.
That's a good idea.
Maybe in the future we will. We'll think about that.
I'm actually part Scottish on my
Are you?
grandfather's side. So yeah.
Yeah, even more reason we should have done that again. It wouldn't have mattered for me. Although maybe I could have had a little scotch. I probably could have gotten that down. Regardless, we don't need to waste any more time. We're going to get you into the WWE Clash at the Castle instant analysis. We're going to start with the main event. We're going to work our way down the card based on the most important matches. We're going to break down everything that happened in the matches, give you our thoughts, and then discuss booking for WWE going forward. Anything that we don't touch on or perhaps that we miss from this instant analysis, because we do it right after the show ends, we will have a WWE Clash at the Castle second look, along with our entire weekly WWE episode this coming Tuesday on the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. And we also have a pretty fun, exciting announcement for you this coming Tuesday on the show. Vintage already knows what it is. We're not giving it to you today during the weekend. We'll talk to you about it on Tuesday. So, Chris, let's not waste any time. Let's get right into the WWE Clash at the Castle instant analysis, and let's get started with the main event. The World Heavyweight Championship on the line, Damian Priest defending against Drew McIntyre. Now, during the kickoff event Friday, and I did forget to mention anything that happened at this kickoff event or Friday night on SmackDown that directly has to do with Clash. We will also discuss it as part of this instant analysis. So during the kickoff event Friday, McIntyre, he laid it on thick about being must win this match, being must win for him, and basically guaranteeing victory. He also said that his wife, Caitlyn, was undergoing emergency surgery and would miss the show. And the face-to-face with Priest on this was better than anything we got on TV leading up to Clash. Drew also did tease Broken Dreams with a line that got a pop during that confrontation. And he also painted K on his black wrist tape for his wife ahead of the match. Now, on Saturday, McIntyre got a bagpipe entrance playing Scotland the Brave, which is the primarily Scottish song that we all know here in America. But he only got his normal entrance music. No Broken Dreams. That said, when he walked out, it was like a conquering hero showed up. It was deafening in the Ovo Hydro, almost as if like William Wallace came back from the dead. That was the reaction this guy got. McIntyre's name was chanted throughout, even Priest's entrance. And when he raised the title on the announce, McIntyre literally pivoted to stand directly in his face. At the bell, fans chanted, "Here we go, here we go, here we fucking go." Drew did his tope and Michinoku driver early. Priest's foot got caught between the top rope and the middle rope while he was doing a step-up tope, like a 1 in a million botch. Nearly a complete disaster. Actually something that looked cool if it could have been done purposefully, which obviously it was not. I've never, ever seen this happen before. They skipped a plan outside. They went right back into the ring. McIntyre hit Future Shock DDT. Priest came back with a razor's edge off the ropes. McIntyre hit Glasgow Kiss, but took a huge roundhouse kick as Priest smartly continued to sell the ankle, the knee, whatever's wrong with him. McIntyre kicked up. Priest rolled out of the ring to avoid Claymore, only to take Claymore ringside, busting through the Timekeeper's barricade. Priest countered Claymore back inside with a choke into South of Heaven. That was a false finish. He continued to sell the knee and literally pushed the referee in the head away from him at one point. Then Priest did a Hurricanrana off the top rope, only for McIntyre to recover with a Claymore to a hobbling Priest for a 2.9 false finish. The referee avoided being squashed in the corner by jumping out of the ring, selling a knee injury. Then he jumped back onto the apron to come back in the ring, and McIntyre pushed Priest into the ropes. The referee went flying into the barricade, and all of a sudden there's no referee. Priest intercepted McIntyre's Claymore with a powerbomb. Then McIntyre, upon standing, hit a Claymore. No one is there to count. The backup referee, or so we thought, ran in, only to be determined as CM Punk. He counted to 2. He stared down McIntyre with a huge shit-eating grin, and then he did the peace sign from the cemetery meme that McIntyre used to celebrate Punk's injury. McIntyre went after him, so Punk did a low blow kick right to the balls, dipped out. Priest hit South of Heaven and a delayed cover, selling the ankle at the same time as the referee counted 1, 2, 3, with Priest retaining the title in 21 minutes. The crowd was angry, but I think it was even more stunned than upset that WWE actually did not put the title on McIntyre in Scotland. Now, I'm going to come back to the finish. I want to shout out Priest for surviving what I said already was a 1 in a million botch on the ropes. That rope went into business for itself the entire night. It was particularly scary, though, because Priest, it wasn't so much the ankle or the knee or a ligament, all that. The way he turned over, it was possible that he would have nailed his head on the ring apron and been concussed or worse.
Right. That's where I wanted. That's the sign it was a botch, that it was an accident. Because if his foot doesn't get caught, he's like landing on his head.
It's bad.
So
he was lucky almost that his foot got caught in that particular situation. But he did, and I don't know if it was selling or if it was fighting through the pain. It doesn't matter. Whatever he did over the duration of that match was immense. I mean, top tier stuff. We'll soon find out. He's getting checked out literally as we tape this podcast. Priest was awesome. This was his best in-ring moment since the Bad Bunny work at Backlash last year. Transitional champion, B-side champion, whatever I've called him, whatever we've called him. This was a crowning achievement for Damian Priest, the WWE superstar. He deserves his flowers here, period. Chris, do you want to say anything more about this before I kind of keep going when we talk about the match?
Yes, Priest was great in everything. The kickoff, like you said, I agree. That was the best, most interesting thing these two had done together this entire time. And I was like, man, where was this? where was this intensity? Priest was great there, got me believing in it. Did a great job in the match. It really felt like a heavyweight fight. We didn't throw the meat drops in here, but you can probably throw this around for big meaty men slapping.
Oh my
It
God.
felt like
It was meat on meat action. Dude, I hope they reinforce. Clearly, they didn't reinforce the ropes, but hopefully they reinforced the ring post because beef was flying tonight between these gentlemen.
Reinforce the ring post. The beef's going to be flying tonight, gentlemen.
I mean, there were two big meaty men slapping meat out there. That's what I like to see.
Oh, we got two big meaty men bumping meat tonight. Big meaty men slapping meat. That's what I want.
Great call by you. I can't even believe I missed that. Please go ahead.
Yeah, no, it really felt like two big guys beating the crap out of each other. There was a lariat that Priest threw in there that really smacked loud, and he delivered in this. Again, the fact that the rope thing becoming part of the story of the match was masterful and helped the match. Like, it was the story they ended up telling as the match went on. So it ended up working out great. Like, all in all, at the end, he was fantastic. I had we'll talk about the finish later, but Priest, this Friday and Saturday, the most he has ever felt like the champion.
Yeah, and in both
that
cases
was where
by
we needed to
himself.
get.
We've criticized the fact that when he's on his own, he hasn't really lived up to being that world heavyweight champion that you want to see. When he's with Judgment Day, it's a lot easier for him. In both cases, he was on his own here.
And we probably won't get to the press conference on this show, but he was awesome in that. I said, I'm thinking, where is that Damian Priest? That's the one we want to see every week. So I'm hoping, kind of the way Drew pushed him a bit, and what we got this weekend, I'm hoping that's the Priest we get moving forward. Yeah,
the press conference, again, I just wish we had time to do it today, but we'll talk about pretty much every person in that post-show press conference on our Tuesday WWE episode. When we do a second look, we'll touch on a couple brief parts on this show. Just one more thing I'll point out.
There's a lot of beef out here.
There's a lot of beef out there in that match. But let's talk about the match, because Priest got his flowers already. This was extremely well wrestled. There were some killer spots and sequences. Everything was pretty perfect, given the circumstances, including, I would even say, the booking and the execution of the finish to the end that creative wanted. I thought with Punk being publicly in Scotland that we might get the Money in the Bank 2011 finish where he tries to screw Drew, but he ends up hurting Damian. McIntyre wins anyway, jumps into the crowd, and taunts Punk while holding the title and celebrating with the Scottish people. Instead, the babyface and Punk blatantly screwed over the heel, tweener, local babyface, and McIntyre. And he did it in a way that was not exactly understandable, but it was literally vindictive in kayfabe, just given Punk had already gotten one over on McIntyre at WrestleMania. It's not like Drew had done anything additional to him since then. So it was, on one hand, immensely telegraphed with the referee bump where you knew, okay, now something's going to happen. And worst of all to me is that WWE spent an entire week building a McIntyre coronation and a babyface McIntyre, only to retain a comparatively weak champion at the end of the match. Though, again, the way the reveal was executed was exceptional. So my feelings are mixed. Am I angry because they want me to be angry? I'm not sure, because Punk has been a babyface since returning, and McIntyre has been a clear heel in their feud. So as a fan, I seemingly should be happy that the heel got further comeuppance, but I'm not. I'm certainly pissed off to a degree as a viewer and critic, because it was one thing not to crown McIntyre over Roman Reigns 2 years ago in Wales, given everything they had planned for that storyline. It was utterly ridiculous to me to put Clash at the Castle in Scotland, their first ever PLE, and not have the homegrown talent who is the face of Scottish wrestling go over in the main event against a champion that definitely could have been beaten, especially given what happened at WrestleMania. Like, what is the payoff going to be here? Is this going to be a successfully executed double turn back in the United States? I don't see fans booing Punk for McIntyre, even though Drew, for me, is the babyface of this feud, especially now. Is McIntyre going to beat Punk at SummerSlam? Okay, so he wins a non-title singles match in Cleveland, as opposed to winning the World Heavyweight title in Scotland. That's a downgrade from a moment standpoint. Is Punk actually going to lose his first singles match back in WWE? If not, then McIntyre loses that also, and then what happens next. I just don't really see how this reaches as satisfying a conclusion for McIntyre compared to him winning the title here and Punk screwing him out of it after the fact back in the United States. I gave you that booking on the Ultimate Preview. McIntyre gets his moment. Punk screws him either in his first title defense or he helps the next Money in the Bank briefcase holder win the title. And we still wind up with the same result. McIntyre, Punk, non-title match at SummerSlam, but at least Drew gets his moment in Scotland. Literally the only idea that I can come up with now is McIntyre winning the Money in the Bank briefcase, screwing Punk somehow, and being a hypocrite who cashes in Money in the Bank the way the two people have that have cost him the title in the past. That's all that makes sense to me. The hate is strong in this feud. The long-term booking logic, I'm not totally sure. I feel like WWE may have booked themselves into a corner with Gunther getting a title match at SummerSlam by winning King of the Ring. Maybe that prevented McIntyre from winning the title here as he should have. I'm going to stop. I'm going to let you get in. We'll talk more about it on the back end. I'll finish with this. Match grade, 4.25 stars and an A.
I'm trying to think. You picked McIntyre to win, correct?
I did, yes.
I picked McIntyre. I'm 99% sure I picked Priest to win and retain. I did tweet before the show that I'm changing my mind to Drew winning, but when something else happened in the show, in the middle of the show,
you don't get to do that. That's not how this works.
I changed it back.
That's not how this works. You can make a change before the bell. That's okay, but you can't do it during the match.
No. In the middle of the show, not the match.
Still.
I had moved back to McIntyre by the time the match started. But so like a lot to go here. I thought McIntyre's entrance at Wales was cooler than this one because we got the Broken Dreams part of it. I thought this was really cool and nice, but it's not going to be up there for like entrance of the year for me. I mean, it might be up there, but it's not going to be the winner.
It was pretty awesome.
It was really solid, but you know, it's not the big WrestleMania screen. There was only so much you could do in the setup and all that, but that's what that was. I think the weird feeling coming out of this is that is the weird feeling coming in, which was they're both heels, and
pretty much,
we never really knew how to feel about both of them.
Yeah,
I complained about on Raw, Priest was both a face in the opening segment and a heel in the closing segment, and so that was making it difficult for Priest to kind of figure out how to go into this. The way they executed the finish was fantastic. You do the faraway shot with the referee running in. And at the time, I'm thinking, oh, that's kind of a cool, different kind of shot to see the referee. And then you see the ref slide in across the camera and you see the red shoes. And I'm like, that's weird.
So it was the shoes for you, not the hair? Because for me, it was the hair.
Shoes.
Okay, it was the hair for me.
I saw the red shoes. I was like, well, that's weird. Was it just the bottom of the shoe? And then it was 1, 2, and then he stops. And I was like, oh, now I know what it was. So they did nail the production of that for the most part. I think you could have just put Punk in some different shoes, personally. But they executed it really well for what they wanted to do. But the question is, was it the right thing to do? I still think the plan was Punk versus McIntyre here if Punk was ready, and it would have been incredible.
Sure.
Can you imagine CM Punk's entrance in Scotland going one-on-one against Drew McIntyre?
Yeah, it would have been John Cena one night stand.
They would have, they would have soaked that in. It would have been unbelievable. And so like you couldn't get there, and so you're doing something else. I wanted McIntyre to win this one because it was Scotland, because Priest hasn't been that great of a champion, but ultimately the reasons I predicted it wouldn't happen were what it was. And you're right. I don't know if you couldn't get any bigger than Punk McIntyre in Scotland, and it's not going to be bigger at SummerSlam. Maybe at WrestleMania, maybe if you've got a title on the line, maybe you can get there. But yeah, it feels like we're going to a Punk McIntyre match at Mania that will feel bigger than almost anything on the card, perhaps anything.
Oh, SummerSlam, not Mania, but yeah.
SummerSlam, yes, yeah. Sorry. And yeah, so like, it's fine. It's okay. It's continuing to add on to this. You know, it's just like,
For me, it's this. It's how many moments is WWE going to sacrifice
Yeah.
for Triple H's booking plans? And let me be very clear about something. If this exact same booking happened, 3 years ago, then I'd be ranting and raving and calling Vince McMahon an idiot because there's no trust that there's anything on the other side. It's, you screwed the hometown guy because you screwed the hometown guy because that's what you always do. And it's not going to matter in the end. And McIntyre won't win the title and so on and so forth. Here, I'm kind of couching my anger or my distaste for it to a degree because I believe that there's going to be a plan because our investment in the product to this point has consistently been rewarded by Paul Levesque based on his booking style. Sometimes it's a little bit longer than we want to wait, but oftentimes we still get a huge moment. But still, despite that, they're sacrificing a lot of massive moments for long-term booking, where at the end you then say, was that finish, was that payoff worth sacrificing the moment? A great example
it's the same thing. Yeah, it's the same thing we said during Roman. It's the same thing we said during the last.
Well, no, that's what I was going to say. Forget even Drew McIntyre and Roman Reigns. They didn't put Sheamus over Gunther, right? And it seemed like that was the thing to do. And they didn't put Chad Gable over Gunther. And it was like, that could be a crowning achievement for the underdog babyface who everyone wants to win a title. They didn't do that. So Sami Zayn won the Intercontinental title. And it was okay. Like, it was a nice moment and people popped, but it was not as explosive as the other ones, right? So you're sacrificing Drew McIntyre winning the World Heavyweight Championship in Scotland. Is the final moment of this feud going to be better than that? And I don't think it's going to be, no matter what it is. So that's why I say, why didn't you just give him this moment, have Punk cost him the title again a month from now, and then get to what you were going to do anyway? That way you get the best of both worlds. And they're not doing that. So they didn't do it with Sheamus. They didn't do it with Chad Gable. They didn't do it with Drew McIntyre. And again, is the long-term booking going to be worth it to not get the short-term, massive, memorable moment payoff? And I just don't think that's going to end up being the case, Chris.
Well, I'll tell you the other reason they did it, which was the reason I picked McIntyre to lose, which was if you take the belt off of Priest now,
he's dead. Yeah,
he's dead.
Yeah,
it is very hard to come back to that. On top of McIntyre continually calling him a transitional paper champion, if he can't back that up, then people aren't going to believe in him.
Yeah.
For a very long time.
Although that could have worked in storyline. You could have said, well, he tries to lead Judgment Day with Rhea Ripley not there. And Finn Balor's like, why should we believe in you if you couldn't even keep the title without us? Like, they could have made that work to a degree.
Right. Which is again, where I think they were just in a difficult spot where this wasn't the original match they wanted to do here.
Right.
And and considering the way it was announced and put together, it felt like they were trying to hold off as long as they could to see if CM Punk would be ready. And he wasn't.
Yeah.
And there's nobody else really on the roster for Priest to fight, like Jey Uso again. Like there's not much there. So you figure you do this, you have Punk screw him, you add to that, you get a lot of heat on it, and you do that. But I agree. McIntyre still never really has had his moment.
No.
His moment was winning the Royal Rumble in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was it. Really.
And some of those Raw moments against Brock Lesnar were sick, but not.
Yeah. He wins the title in front of nobody. He loses it, wins it again in the Thunderdome, and he wins it at Mania over Seth Rollins, only to immediately lose it.
Yep.
And it's like, man, like, oof.
He loses to Bobby Lashley kind of for no reason at that WrestleMania too.
Yep. To open
after
the
pandemic,
2021. So it's a guy who's there was a Seth Rollins feud as well. You thought, hey, he's going to climb back to this moment, and he doesn't do it again. And it's like, the Punk stuff has been really good, but how many times can you tell that story over and over? I feel like you could have pulled the trigger here, but again, I understand why they didn't. It's just the position they put themselves in, and Punk's injury made it a little harder.
And that's the thing. Prove us wrong. Like we've stated our case here. We've told you why we believe He should have won the title in this situation, and they could have still taken it off of him and done the story they want to do. Prove us wrong. If the booking is better, then we're going to tell you. I agree now that, and I think you do too, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, that McIntyre not beating Reigns in Wales was the right decision because of what we thought was going to happen at WrestleMania 39, but then what happened at WrestleMania 40. So it paid off eventually, but now we can't tell you because we can't see the future. We don't know what's going to happen. What if CM Punk gets injured again? Knock on wood. Like, there's all of these factors that we can't definitely say this was the wrong decision. They screwed up. But what I can tell you is for my taste and for my booking style, if I had the book and I had the pencil, I put Drew McIntyre over in Scotland, and I have Punk cost him the title in his first defense or through Money in the Bank or through something else very soon.
When the last Clash at the Castle happened 2 years ago, I said, I don't know if you're going to get a bigger moment than Drew right here to take down Roman. And they got it a couple months later in Montreal. They didn't do it, understandably, because we thought, all right, it's going to be the Cody moment. And then they didn't do the Cody moment. And then we finally got to WrestleMania 40, and they delivered, and it was an incredible moment, and it was great. So, like, they can, turn this around and get it right, but you're not doing a pay-per-view in Scotland again anytime soon.
Right.
I think so. That's where that's where it hurts. I thought that Wales was a kind of a once in a lifetime moment because of that. Turned out it wasn't because they went to Scotland, but it does feel like, man, you could have made a moment there.
But that's the thing. Like, what are they going to do? Ireland next year, and he's going to win in Ireland, and it's just like, why would you do that? You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's the frustration. So we'll move on. We have a lot more to talk about. I have a couple other items to mention here. WWE did something really cool. They kept a camera on Punk backstage as he was watching the match, and it showed him demanding a referee shirt from Jessica Carr so he could take advantage of the referee knockdown to screw McIntyre. And Jessica didn't know what was going on. She just handed him a shirt. It added an element of realism to the booking that is often overlooked when this occasionally happens in wrestling. You're like, oh, that person was just wearing a referee shirt ready to go. They were the backup referee. That doesn't make any sense. They explained it with the social media segment here, and maybe they even showed that on Raw Monday night. I thought that was awesome. I also think, Chris, one more thing.
Yeah. Well, to build off of it, let me build off of that real quick. Off of that specific point. The story of pro wrestling in 2024 is wrestlers flying very long distances in order to be haters and screw over somebody. We had AJ going to Saudi Arabia to screw LA Knight. We had LA Knight going to Puerto Rico on SmackDown to just mess with Logan Paul. And now we've got CM Punk going to Scotland to do nothing and ends up screwing Drew McIntyre. Apparently, you're getting your miles worth.
What I was going to say is that, as any wrestling company should in 2024, keeping a camera backstage on CM Punk permanently is the right decision.
Yeah. I had one other point.
Yeah.
Priest, one other thing to credit Damian Priest about. He's really, really good at kickouts. There were a couple in this match. The one on the first Claymore nailed it.
He's like kind of Roman Reigns-esque in that way, I will say. Yeah.
Yeah. Very good. Another thing to credit him for. Good kickouts. That's a very, very important skill.
One other thing with CM Punk, he came out to the post-show press conference in kayfabe, at least, maybe also in reality, unscheduled, with an entire box of donuts. So, like, playing off the cupcakes, whole deal muffins, deal back in AEW. But he was wearing a Celtic FC shirt. McIntyre is a Rangers fan. So he was in full hate mode, even in the post-show press conference. He said that he expects to be cleared for action Monday after a doctor's appointment in Chicago. So he's not going to be at Raw in Corpus Christi, Texas, by the way, but hopes to be at SmackDown, which will be in Chicago. So he hopes to celebrate that on Friday. Punk also said that his goal is for McIntyre to never hold a major title in WWE again because he hated the idea that Drew celebrated his injury. He said it's one thing to want to beat people up, but wishing them to be injured and then celebrating when they are injured is unacceptable. So that's the explainer and the mindset for why he believes what he did is okay in kayfabe. What do you think about that?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. His whole press conference was kind of a mix of real and kayfabe, and he does that in a very interesting and smart way. So yeah,
when he brought out the donuts, I actually thought he was going to do like a brawl-in mock type of press conference where like Triple H was going to have to come out and drag him away or something. I was ready for it. I was like, oh wow, they're going all the way with this, and he didn't do it, which is good. Like they shouldn't have done that, but It's what I thought was going to happen.
Do we get McIntyre on SmackDown, you think?
I don't think so, no. It'd be great if they
so?
do.
Punk in Chicago, I think we have to.
Oh, man, it'd be great. But see, I don't know who's the baby face. Who is Punk still supposed to be the baby face? If so, then maybe, because it's in Chicago.
Yes. Punk is the babyface now because yes, he got over on him twice, but Drew cost Punk, 6 months of wrestling at this point, and so
sure, but he cost him the title 2 times, and really,
I know
this whole time, Drew's entire gimmick has been, look, you guys may boo me, but all I'm doing is telling the truth, and it's true. Like, people hate Drew McIntyre and Hangman Page over in AEW for no reason whatsoever. Both of them are baby faces. I stand by that. But in kayfabe, they're heels, and
sort of. I mean, Drew McIntyre celebrating Punk's injury is not.
He's mocking him, but he didn't do it on purpose. He's the one that's gotten screwed. But Drew's suffered more punishment than Punk did. Punk got injured in a match. It just happened.
Yeah, but he's been out for 6 months at this point.
Yeah, but now he directly cost him the title once, and then a second time flew to Scotland and interfered in a match that he had no business. He wasn't even ringside for this. Like at WrestleMania, he was ringside. McIntyre got in his face, was talking shit. McIntyre kind of deserved it at WrestleMania. He didn't deserve it.
He didn't cheat in this match, and then Punk even it up.
Right.
Or something like
That's
that.
what I'm saying.
Had the match won.
Yeah.
But I did like after Punk did the whole deal, and he rolls out of the ring, and you have that Scotland person give him the double birds.
Yeah.
Great shot there. But then later on, fans were like cheering him and stuff like that. So that was kind of weird.
It's weird. All right, let's move on. We got a lot more to talk about. WWE Championship, Cody Rhodes defending against AJ Styles in an I Quit match. Now, first, we actually have to talk about SmackDown. Cody opened hour 2 of SmackDown without Pyro, getting Cody Rhodes, Earth, Wind, and Fire style chants, while saying that AJ is starting to look like the guy many despise, the one who hangs around too long. The chant was immense. Rhodes purposely chose not to say I quit on the mic before Styles entered with the Good Brothers. AJ got drowned out by the same chant. It was so loud, WWE put a live and loud DBA meter on the screen. Styles countered, going hard at Cody for quitting WWE, quitting New Japan, quitting Ring of Honor, and even starting a company and quitting that too. Been waiting for that, right? Cody.
They don't say the name of that one. They'll say the name of everything.
No,
else.
But they still referenced it directly. I mean, that was direct. Cody acknowledged everything AJ said, but he countered, saying he's never been shy about walking away to chase something greater. He bet on himself and was right because now he's holding the most important title in the game. Cody said AJ quit on himself by pretending to be Mark Henry. He called Styles a resentful coward, promising to shove a bitter pill down his throat by making him say, I quit. So he said it out of rage. Cody did at the end. And I was like, oh, he actually said it. Maybe that's going to come into play. Styles put over Rhodes' toughness for not quitting against Seth Rollins, but said he's going to do whatever it takes to win the title. This segment, Chris, should be played on a loop inside the WWE Performance Center. It was absolute perfection for a go-home to build the main event of a PLE or a main event caliber match of a PLE. In fact, it's entirely what we wanted and hoped to get before their first match when we weren't sure if they were going to fight a second time. And back then, if you remember, we suggested the only reason not to do it before Backlash is if they were going to fight again later this year. Boom, that's exactly what happened. Obviously interesting, as you noted, they named every company except AEW, but that's also not a surprise whatsoever. I almost wish this was our Tuesday show so we could discuss the ins and out of this for 20 minutes. But because this is the instant analysis, I'm just going to repeat, it was perfection and it was kind of phenomenal. Sorry. And no, I don't care that fans hijacked the segment to a degree. The guys powered through. It was fine. And they totally delivered a memorable in-ring segment ahead of Clash at the Castle.
Cody Rhodes. I've got that stuck in my head all weekend. It was nowhere near as good as a phenomenal chant in France. No offense to the fans there. I get it. I know the chant. They did it with some other people, but it was kind of just annoying after a little bit more than anything else. But this was a fantastic segment. Terrific go home. Everything you'd want for that.
It was awesome. All right, so Cody and AJ opened Clash at the Castle, and Mama Rhodes was in the front row getting a loud pop when Cody hugged her. The crowd also sang the end of Cody's song when the music stopped, and again did Cody Rhodes through the entire ring announce. Styles later got a brief AJ Styles is a wanker chant. They went through the crowd and backwards into gorilla position before doing an over-the-ropes vertical suplex spot. Cody took a driver and a brainbuster into the announce table. Then AJ got into it with Mama Rhodes, who straight up called him an asshole. And Cody did a mini blade job while that was happening. There were fuck you AJ chants as Cody hit disaster kick. AJ did a knee drop with a chair wrapped around Cody's neck and used a kendo stick. Then he stole the referee's belt, beat Cody with it, and used an STF until Rhodes passed out. Styles pulled a bag, telling us at home it's not what we thought. Obviously, we thought it was thumbtacks. And I was shocked. I was like, I can't believe they're going to do thumbtacks. But instead, it was handcuffs. He handcuffed Cody's hands behind his back, beat him with the cane, and again screamed at Mama Rhodes. He poked her in the chest. So Michelle slapped him 3 times. AJ hysterically turns around, grabs a chair. I laugh out loud. He's threatening Mama Rhodes with a chair. And while this is happening, again, it was a distraction so Cody could move his hands in front instead of behind his back. Styles wrapped a chain on his forearm and went for his finisher, but Cody threw a chair at his head. Styles bounced off the top rope, through a table that had been set up ringside. Then Cody grabbed the key, unlocked the cuffs. Cody Cutter followed. The crowd went apoplectic before 2 regular crossroads and a third onto a chair. Then he cuffed Styles to the middle rope for 11 chair shots, 2 on his knee. Cody then brought the steel steps into the ring, and he was going to throw them at Styles as he was handcuffed in the corner when AJ finally uttered, "I quit," with Cody retaining the title in 28 minutes. Mama Rhodes then told Cody to use the stairs anyway, so he did. Then he stood on the steps, raised the title. AJ ended up bleeding as well. Production screwed up a couple camera shots here that kind of lessened the perfection of the finish. Also, the song played and then stopped and then played again, but it was nevertheless really strong. This was simply an excellent match once again. It's fair to argue the finish could have been stronger with a greater climax, but that is always the problem with I Quit and Last Man Standing matches, which is why generally I'm not a huge fan of them. What's undoubted in my mind is that a third meeting between these two guys would put Cody AJ high in the conversation for greatest in-ring trilogy in WWE history. I say that as I'm again at 4.75 stars and an A+ for this match. Keeping it from utter perfection was that I'd have liked more of an ebb and flow as to who had the advantage late, back and forth a little bit more. It was one way and then another way into the finish. You never felt like Cody was ever that close to quitting just because he's not the type of guy to say those words. He's very much in the John Cena class right now. That phenomenal forearm spot was fantastic, and it was a rare I Quit match where the vast majority of it was contained in the ring. Plus, Styles quitting made sense because he had no chance for escape, only further pain. Obviously, I thought Styles should have won this match, given the fake retirement angle and how it was such a mistake with what happened with Mark Henry back in the day. We discussed that at length on the show 2 weeks ago. I'm not going to repeat it now. It does not seem like Rhodes Styles 3 is on the docket in the near term, at least given what happened in the post-match. We'll cover that in a minute. So the idea of Cody getting a break and going back to chasing the title for a month or two just doesn't seem to be in the cards. But even if it's just a 2-match series and we never get another one, it was tough to ask for more from these two guys. They rocked the house at Backlash in Lyon. They did it again at Clash at the Castle in Glasgow. I did find the first match to be better, but this was pretty damn close, Chris.
Terrific match. These guys have a really good chemistry together. Call it a television style of wrestling, but they're both really good at that, and it works. My issue with this match is the same issue I had with the first match, and which is why I don't put this as an all-time feud, even though it could be. But there has never been a point where I thought Cody was going to lose. They didn't really have any false finishes of Cody kicking out of anything in the first match. And there was never anything in this moment where you thought Cody might say yes. We both picked Cody to retain.
Mm-hmm.
And when you find out this is the opener, you're thinking, well, Cody's definitely retaining.
Yeah.
But when we saw Mama Rhodes ringside, I thought to myself, there's the out. You have the OC come down to do something, and AJ's about to hit Mama Rhodes with a chair, and Cody says, "I quit." Like, that's the chance. That's the moment you could have Cody lose an I Quit match without him, looking bad for saying it. It's almost heroic that he said it. And so I thought, oh, this could be that. And it wasn't. We never went back to it. We never even had a moment of it being a possibility. So it's just like, Cody was never in danger here. And even when he gets handcuffed behind his back, he gets it back to the front pretty quickly, and the camera crew missed that. They had to show it in the replay after the match about how Cody got the cuffs from behind him to in front of him. So it was a terrific match once again, and I actually like the finish. I do like a sudden finish to an I Quit match, you know? Like they are really difficult matches to book for that reason. There's a reason you and I both hate them. But that was an understandable way to do kind of a quick finish. So I was fine with that, and I thought it was a great match. I just never thought Cody was going to lose both times. There's no reason to do a third match here. AJ literally said, I quit. There's nothing lower you can get to at that point.
Well, he can be angry that Cody still attacked him after the bell. He's supposed to be a good guy, and he still did that.
Yeah, but I'm just like, you can get there, but it's just like he's already lost 2 in a row. I mean, look, Cody went 3-0 against Seth Rollins, so I guess, you know, maybe that's just what we do with Cody. But man, could you imagine if Mama Rhodes was in a position and Cody had to consider saying I quit to save her or something like that? Like, that would have been incredible. And we never got it. Also, they asked Cody like 25 times if he was going to quit. It was like the video game, right? You do a move, you tell the ref to ask. You do a move, you tell the ref to ask. It was a bit much, but it was really good. It's just the limitations of the booking.
Well, yeah,
I mean, of the match type.
The referee and the referee's usage really bothered me. Like, he looked like he was constantly on the verge of busting into tears the entire match. And caricature referee acting is always too distracting. Like Aubrey Edwards and this guy, it's just way too much for me. I don't know if it was on purpose or if that's just the face that he made. Didn't like that. And yeah, like Cody would take an arm drag and he'd be like, do you want to quit? Like, no, he took an arm drag. Cody had a kendo stick jabbed into a torn pectoral. He's not going to quit because he took an arm drag or a power slam or whatever the case. Like, wait until he's in a submission or wait until he's getting beat with a chair like 8 times or something. So I agree. I was distracted by that. I didn't love that part. That's why it wasn't perfect. But the action was awesome. And again, keeping an I Quit match in the ring is not something that normally happens. There's so much focus outside the ring, blood. And yeah, you know, Cody bladed probably, and AJ bladed probably. I don't think they were hard ways, but it was minor. And Cody didn't have blood until like 12, 13 minutes into the match. It wasn't 30 seconds in. You know what I mean? So it was all for the purpose of story. I just thought they absolutely crushed it, both of them. And when I say one of the greatest trilogies, I'm not talking about it from the standpoint of like awesome story, you know, whatever. I'm saying just in ring. I think these two, what they have done in back-to-back shows, a third, you have to assume would eclipse the first two. And when you think about the trilogies in WWE history, you think about great storylines and a couple good matches. You don't really think about 2 or 3 consecutive matches where you could say, wow, all of those, in my opinion, meaning me or you, the listener, were 5-star potential matches. And I think they've already put 2 out there. I don't think this was 5 stars. I didn't give the first one that. But I think both are really close. And if you could say that about 3 potential matches in a series, when you're talking about WWE, I think there's a legitimate conversation to have talking about incredible in-ring work. Now,
I guess I would put them on the really good stage, but neither of them I put up on the top tier stage just because we didn't really get the false finishes. I never felt Cody was in doubt. So I think they can. These guys, again, I think they have incredible chemistry. They've put together fantastic matches. I've just been surprised at some of the booking in that sense to never really make it feel like Cody was in doubt when you easily could have.
Yeah.
It's like the one thing that's missing that for whatever reason is not there. But you do that, and this is an all-time rivalry you could get to. I mean, like, you could put if AJ had won this, if Cody quits because of Mama Rhodes in this, and they go on through SummerSlam, like, you're talking like all-time rivalry type of stuff here. Cody hasn't really have that yet, but Cody wins again.
We did lay out some pretty damn good booking for AJ to win this and Cody to kind of get it back at SummerSlam. And I just wish that they would do it because Cody would benefit so much from a 2-month break from the title, chasing it, getting it back, and then taking it into WrestleMania. They're not going to do it, but he really would benefit from that. Now, let's go ahead and talk about the booking going forward, because as Cody celebrated this title win at the top of the ramp, Solo Sikoa walked out with like a sarcastic golf clap standing alongside him. Then they stared down briefly before the Tongans attacked Rhodes blind, with Kevin Owens and Randy Orton almost immediately saving and chasing them off. Also notable, and I tweeted a picture of this at Getting Overcast so you can take a look, is that Orton had eyes on the WWE title at the very end of the segment. It was brief, but it was obvious. Now, it's going to be curious to see what happens next. You could see a 6-man at Money in the Bank with Cody Solo at SummerSlam. But dude, That is not in any way a high quality, must see WWE title match at the second biggest show of the year. I know kids these days love saying aura, but there was zero aura when Cody and Solo stood off. It was more like, oh, okay, I guess that makes sense to do. Now, I hope the 6-man happens on TV. We get Cody and Solo at Money in the Bank, and then either Cody AJ3 in a title versus career match, or Cody Randy somehow, or something else at SummerSlam. Styles, like I said, he can be angered that Rhodes attacked him after the bell. That would be a great way to put a marquee result on that show. And you could even have Cody then win the 4th match between them if you go back and do it. So I don't know what's going to happen, obviously. But Chris, that is what went down at the end of Clash at the Castle, at the end of this segment on Clash at the Castle, and what I believe the options are going forward.
Yes. Solo versus Cody is not a SummerSlam match. Look, I didn't think Roman Jay was either, and that happened. So anything's possible. But if it's not Roman Reigns coming back, it's either got to be AJ Styles or Randy Orton. Those are the biggest names on the table. I think what makes the most sense is Solo Cody at Money in the Bank, and then Cody Randy at SummerSlam, where Randy does something and RKO's Cody out of nowhere at some point and says he wants the belt, turns heel. You know, you can figure that out. My only thought would be, like, so Solo said, like on last week or something, that like
we have Cody in check.
We have Cody in check. We're keeping an eye on him. Yada yada, all this stuff for Roman. So do you have them lose a 6-man and have Solo lose to Cody? You don't want to have them lose too much as well. So maybe the Bloodline wins the 6-man on Raw or something like that.
SmackDown,
yeah, SmackDown. Sorry, Solo gets a title shot coming out of that. Randy turns on Cody at some point. I think that would make the most sense.
Man, I mean, yeah, if you give me Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes at SummerSlam, I'm in. If you give me Cody Rhodes and Solo Sikoa at SummerSlam, even if that precipitates the return of Roman Reigns at some point in that match, not to save Cody necessarily, but to take out Solo, it's still not a good reason to have that be your main event, I don't think. At SummerSlam, we'll have to talk about it when we get there, but if the SummerSlam title matches are Cody Solo and Priest Gunther, that leaves a lot to be desired for the second biggest show of the year.
It makes the 2 biggest matches on the show, McIntyre Punk and Logan Paul LA Knight, is what it does.
It
Those
does.
2 matches would be bigger than both title matches.
It does. It also depends what, perhaps, if Rhea Ripley comes back, Rhea Ripley and Liv could be a huge match. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. All right, let's move on. We got 3 more matches to discuss. WWE Women's Championship, Bayley against Piper Niven. Bayley and Piper briefly argued during the opening match on SmackDown, and later backstage, she squashed Bayley and Naomi against the wall in a sneak attack after Chelsea Green distracted the duo. Piper was super emotional during the intro at Clash, and Bayley got serenaded as per usual. Chelsea was ringside, she was dressed like a schoolgirl.
Gonna look good, but she's got me saying, hey now!
And Bayley stomped her hand, so she complained to Charles Robinson, who immediately ejected Chelsea like 2 minutes into the match. She screamed, "I'm sorry," to Niven because of it. Piper hit a cannonball off the ring apron and a senton inside. Bayley draped Piper over the middle rope, hitting a springboard cutter and an elbow drop. Then she did a rolling senton and an elbow drop off the top rope. Really cool sequence. Piper came back with a corner uranagi and a senton, but Bayley took her off the second rope with an avalanche, Bayley to belly. Suddenly, Chelsea ran back down the ramp in a pink luchadora mask, distracting the referee from a cover, leading to a 2 count. Bayley hit a sliding dropkick and then killed Green into the barricade. Back inside, Piper countered Rose Plant with a Piper driver for a false finish. Bayley blocked a Vader bomb but ate a Bossman slam ringside. Piper again countered Rose Plant with a headbutt, only for Bayley to counter her back with an awesome crucifix driver and a really tight cover to retain the title in 14 minutes. Now, the crowd was kind of dead for the finish because it really wanted Piper to win bad, like as the match progressed. But holy shit, I thought this was an absolute freaking
Banger!
This was Piper's best WWE singles match by a mile. And it was Bayley's second awesome match this year, only next to the Io Sky match at WrestleMania. Piper was outstanding. Bayley was amazing. Chelsea was hysterical. I was a little deflated by Piper not winning, sure, But again, we didn't expect her to. I think this is being severely underrated by most fans. I went 4 stars, A-.
Yeah, this was fantastic. From start to finish. By the way, the kickoff event on Friday, Piper was awesome there.
I was going to talk about that. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, just really kind of showed off her personality and really got the crowd behind her and talked about a lot of things. Like, she really, really shined in the last week coming up to this when she got time on the mic to do that. And we already know she's amazing in the ring. We've been singing her praises for months and months, well before the Dewdrop days even. So I'm not at all surprised that she finally got an opportunity and really showed out here. And yeah, I would have liked her to win. I'm not surprised that she didn't, especially something else happened that we'll get to. But Chelsea Green was fantastic as well. I said on the last podcast, everything she does, she makes better by her appearance, by her actions. And she did that once again. Running down with the lucha mask is hilarious. Just a really funny idea. And really good stuff. Banger of a match. We know Piper can go. I don't know what it means moving forward, but Piper and Chelsea have really, really gotten to shine here. And I'm glad because they're great.
Going to what you said about the kickoff from Friday, my hope upon all hopes is that this is just the start of Piper getting main event and upper mid-card elevation. She is certainly a believable champion, but perhaps even more importantly than her being a believable champion, she's an uber believable championship challenger. And she should constantly be getting those types of opportunities going forward. I don't mean like every other month. I'm talking about once a year, maybe twice a year. She also proved what we already knew during the kickoff event from a personality, charisma, and character standpoint. She should not be relegated to only getting pushed in Scotland. So I really hope this is just the start for her and that she broke out and Paul Levesque and everyone else saw this is a woman who can be used, not necessarily like Bianca Belair, right? Or Bayley or Becky Lynch, but in that next top tier.
Yeah, she's constantly been like Bianca needs to look strong. Put them two together. They'll put on a banger. Bianca will look great. Kind of a not jobber to the stars, but sort of like that. But she is really believable. She should get a world title reign at some point.
At some point.
I think there's so much you can do with her. And she's really showed off her personality in a way we didn't see before. To go from being named Dewdrop by Eva Marie back in the day to getting to this point is awesome. I think you could put her in a babyface role or a heel role. She is incredibly versatile. She can do it all. I've been a huge fan of her for a while and do more with her.
Not sure when it's going to come, but Chelsea and Piper as baby faces would do major freaking business. They would absolutely go crazy. Dewdrop.
No.
Piper Niven.
Yeah.
More of Piper Niven. Thank you very much. Intercontinental Championship. Sami Zayn defending against Chad Gable. Now, this was the middle match on the card with Maxine Dupree selling the ankle depressed alongside Otis, and Akira Tozawa was nowhere to be found. Loud sing-alongs and chants for Sami, obviously. Gable is a wanker chants later. Interactions with Otis got big reactions early. Gable attacked Zayn's left arm. He sold it for the duration of the match. Sami hit a one-armed Michinoku driver and a series of German suplexes before countering standing switches and hitting a full half-and-half suplex. Gable took Zayn down with a crossface, but Sami reversed it, so Chad put him in an ankle lock submission. Gable picked up the title and handed it to Dupree with a determined look on his face. He wanted her to do something. So he choked Sami over the ropes, then he distracted the referee, hoping that she would hit him with the title. But Maxine stopped herself from doing it. Gable gave her a stern talking to, like in the corner, and that almost led to a distraction for Haluva kick, but he avoided it. Sami then got distracted, and Gable immediately caught him with Chaos Theory, maybe his best ever Chaos Theory. I mean, he's done it to bigger men that's been more impressive, but this was a great one for a 2.999 false finish, the best kick out of the entire show. So Chad dressed Maxine down until Otis got right between them. Zayn did a tope that Otis ate and Gable avoided, so he caught both of them with a moonsault. But Sami avoided another moonsault inside. Chad took an exploder, but he rolled out to avoid Haluva kick, and he put Sami in an ankle lock ringside. When Sami escaped it, Gable inadvertently flew into Maxine's knee and totally took her out. Otis was furious, but Gable distracted the official, telling Otis to go after Zayn. Dupree begged him not to, so he picked her up and walked out. That left Gable alone and angry. Zayn caught him blind with a haluva kick to retain the title in 22 minutes. And then after the bell, Sammy looked back at Chad and crossed his arms as if to say, no more chances. Now, the wrestling in this match was excellent, and there was a ton of storytelling. This was like the perfect mix of pro wrestling and sports entertainment, if you will. Yet I couldn't, Chris, help but feel, and I wonder if you're going to end up agreeing with me, that this was almost the identical story that we've seen for the last 2 months with very little in the way of further developments. Almost like Hangover 2, for those of you unfortunate enough to have seen that film. The exact same story, told in a different setting, with minor tweaks to its direction. There was no Otis turn on Chad in a direct manner. He didn't punch him or anything. There was no title change. There was no debut of the Creed brothers and Ivy Nile alongside Gable like we expect. It was basically the same match and finish that we've seen on multiple PLEs and episodes of Raw. There were some different sequences and moves. There were some different happenings, but nothing that unique. I mean, Maxine even injured a different part of her same leg. Now, I will say, the false finish off Chaos Theory was fantastic on its own. And that in total, what I just described to you, it disappointed me only because I feel like we deserved some further progression given all of our investment to this point. All we really got was Chad being even angrier than he was before and Otis being even less engaged than he was before. Sammy is now 2-0 against Chad in title matches, 3-0 including the triple threat. Gable does have the non-title win from last month. I assume we're going to get the Alpha Academy change on Raw, a 6-man, and then the title match once more in Toronto. And it's going to be super hot with the fans because they're not in danger of it cooling off. So I'm going 4.25 stars A for the match because it was fantastic. I just wish there was more, if that makes sense, because it was on a major PLE.
So basically, we just had two questions coming in. Does Gable win and does Otis do the turn? And I predicted neither would happen. So it was mostly the same. The one difference, though, they gave us an additional reason for Otis to eventually fully turn on Gable, and that was standing up for Maxine. That was not quite something we had before, where Gable's going to do something to her, and he stands in the way of that happening. And it does feel like, though, that they have to pull this trigger soon.
Yeah.
Even when Sammy rolls out of the ring and just stands next to Otis and the fans go crazy for it. Like, just that was huge. So, like, the fans are ready for this to happen.
Like, something needs to happen Monday. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but, like, we have to have something happen Monday night, right?
Here's what I think. What I think happens Monday is the Creed brothers attack Otis.
Right.
And maybe Tozawa, knock them out. And he starts a new team, and you go from there. So, which is fine, but it's not a moment, you know? The moment we're waiting for is Otis, while by Gable's side,
exactly,
turns on him, crowd pops, costs Gable the title, a shot or something. And so you can continue this story going on, but I feel like that's the moment where we're not waiting for Otis to beat Gable in a match, you know? We're waiting for him to stand up for himself. And if he gets attacked by somebody else and that leads to the continuation of the storyline, that's not exactly that. And so I just hope we don't lose that moment.
So I feel like you largely agree with me from the standpoint of it was great, entertaining, exciting, all that. But we didn't have a moment here, and we really did think one was going to come. Some moment, any moment. It really just was the same as what it's been.
Pretty much. It was a small step forward in terms of him standing up for Maxine as well, giving him another reason to eventually turn.
But like, he could have shoved Gable. He could have hit him. Since Gable was losing anyway because he was distracted by Otis, he might as well have hit him or shoved him down to the ground, and Gable been stunned by that.
No, because once Otis puts his hands on Gable like that, that's it. You gotta follow through on it. It can't be a halfway.
You're saying he has to snap where he just goes ape shit all over him.
Yeah.
Okay. What would your grade have been? I'm just kind of curious. You haven't really given grades. I know you don't always do it for matches, but what would your grade have been, or where would you have ranked this match on the show? Because it was a great match, I thought.
I would put it as the first or second match.
To what?
The whole card.
What do you think what the best match on the show was?
Cody, AJ, I'd put over it.
So close. So on the same
or-
level of Priest and McIntyre.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree with that. Okay. By the way, Gable is now 0-5 in Intercontinental Championship opportunities since he started feuding with Gunther however many months ago back in 2023. So felt that was notable. Let's move to the final match. The Women's Tag Team Championship, Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill against Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark and Unholy Union in a triple threat. There were brief taped promos from the champions and Baszler and Stark on SmackDown. Alba Fire and Isla Dawn got to cut a live promo in front of their home country on that show. Wade Barrett told us they're damn good, even if we haven't seen them. That's true, because we haven't seen them. They promised to make history. I thought it was nice that they got to do this, even if it was short and uneventful. This match was second on the card with the correct, thankfully, triple threat rules. Belair had spikes on her braid. I thought it was supposed to be a dragon's tail. Cargill looked like she was doing some type of Mad Max deal. Corey Graves said they were supposed to be the Road Warriors. That did not work for me. I didn't think they were that at all. Jade did a fall-away slam, smo, and drop combo on Baszler and Stark. Then the champions did stereo vertical suplexes and kip-ups on them. So the heels decided, hey, let's all team up. And it worked until it didn't because they're heels. Alba Fire individually showed out, had multiple big spots in the match. Isla Dawn hurt her elbow doing the powerbomb suplex spot with Baszler and Fire. Stark then superplexed Belair. Jade got the hot tag. She slipped and fell trying to springboard into the ring. Now, I want to pause here really quick, Chris. She's done this multiple times. Every time she does it, I'm like, oh my God, that's going to be disastrous. And it finally was. There's really no need for her to do this. She's big and strong. She's super athletic. She does not need to spring off the top rope. Do you agree?
Yes.
Okay. She caught Fire midair and booted Baszler while doing a Liger Bomb. It was kind of clunky. Cargill looked like she tapped out while in Kirifuda clutch. Commentary said that, and the referee was out of position and didn't see it. I'll get back to that in a second. As Jade was about to get knocked out cold, Bianca broke it with a 450 into Shayna's back. The champions took out Baszler with their finishing sequence. Then Dawn respawned out of nowhere. She German suplexed Jade and quickly covered Shayna, who took all that punishment from the champions, for the 1-2-3 and the shocking title change in 12 minutes. Alba immediately burst into tears. Now, she lost her mother 3 weeks ago in Florida, and she got struck by a car while visiting her daughter. What a moment. Like, knowing that happened, knowing everything they've gone through, beyond the personal, certainly even the professional frustrations of not being utilized for like a year and a half, to then win and do it in Scotland 3 weeks after her mother's death. Wow. They both got flowers from their family at ringside, plus you deserve it chants from the crowd, and a huge, huge ovation. Later backstage, Unholy Union got a brief interview saying the others had no chance when they had all of Scotland behind them, and they promised to keep the titles for a while. There's actually a lot to talk about here, starting with this decision, which I love for the moment that Unholy Union got, given the lack of opportunity they have had since being called up to the main roster. In a vacuum, it was awesome. It was touching. It was emotional. And it was definitely the right decision too. But man, as I said on our ultimate preview, Chris, it was nonsensical to have them get their asses kicked by Jade and Bianca 2 weeks ago and then lose clean to Shayna and Zoe on Raw if they were going to become champions on this show. It makes me believe two things. First, that they would have been built up more on TV if what happened to Alba's mom obviously did not happen. I have to believe she kind of just made TV to make TV, and they were probably going to do more, and they just had to change their plans to a degree. And second, it is my belief these plans changed because it simply does not make a shred of sense for them to become champions given the way they were booked leading into this with limited TV time, looking like the least capable team in the match. So good on Paul Levesque to give Alba this moment in light of true tragedy in her life. Now, he claimed on the post show that was not the case, that plans did not change. I'm not sure I believe him. Now,
no, there's no way you would have them get their ass kicked twice in a row only to win like that. Like, this isn't the Vince McMahon style of booking where you have somebody lose right before they win twice.
It's fine for him to say that. That is not his booking style. I believe plans changed and they made a good for Alba. And I love that they did. And there's no harm in doing that. And he's not going to admit, yes, we felt bad for her, so we decided to give her the title. Nor should he admit that. But I do believe that's what happened. And I'm glad, I almost said something wrong. I'm glad she got the title and got this moment. Like it was super touching, super emotional. Now look, there's no doubt, Chris, that they're going to lose the titles back, probably to Jade and Bianca sooner than later. Hopefully they get at least like a month-long run, a defense or two before that happens. Finally, let me get to the match. It was banging for a while until Cargill slipped on that rope. Now, she recovered quickly like a true athlete does, but from there on, it was rough. It's possible that she got knocked earlier in the match. She took a Meteora, and it looked like she may have banged her head. But from there, the match from the slip on the top rope, the entire rest of the match was utterly chaotic and sloppy. Not from the standpoint that everything went wrong, but rather so much seemed to not be executed perfectly. Whether it was the Liger Bomb, whether it was Bianca's 450, the finishing sequence, the German suplex at the end. You also had Jade, as mentioned, tapping to the Karafuda clutch. Now, what she was probably doing was telling Shayna that it was too tight. What you're supposed to do in that situation is pinch the person's arm. So you're pinching them, say, hey, let up, you're being too tight. She somehow did not know that. I was on the verge of giving this a pretty high grade. Midway through, I was like, this is going to be a 4-star match. This is simply awesome. I'm settling around 3.5 stars B. It was more entertaining than the grade suggests. I'm obviously thrilled that Alba in particular not only got her moment, but was able to show that she was capable of going this hard in the ring, because we have not been able to see it as main roster viewers, even though I did see it as an NXT UK viewer. This should be just the start for them. Again, even if they drop the titles sooner than later. I know I repeated myself a little bit. Chris, what were your thoughts on all of this?
Yeah, when Cole said like midway through the match, like that Alba had been the women's UK champ for like
a record long.
Yeah, like 300, 400 dates. I was like, holy crap. I didn't know that. Like, you should have told me that way earlier. Like that instantly gives them credibility to those of us who haven't seen them very much. Doesn't have that. In terms of the decision here, this was the moment that changed everything I thought was going to happen on the show. When they won, I immediately thought Drew's not winning and Piper's probably not winning too, because you put so many Scots on this show, you couldn't have them all lose. And if there was one of them who could get a win, and it would be this one, because Jade and Bianca weren't taking the pin. Like that was the easiest out. So I don't know how much of it was Alba's family tragedy played a decision, or how much of it was, we've got Drew losing, we've got Piper losing, maybe we need to have them win, which is totally fine. This is how wrestling works. That was my other thought, because I was like, because you come in thinking which hometown people are going to win. And if the people you consider of the three, if the lowest of the three wins, to me, that was a sign that the others were not going to win. The finish to this, I thought was really well done. By the way, Bianca nailing that 450 onto, I forgot who it was, Zoe or Shayna, I think, who had Jade in a submission.
Shayna.
That was a nuts spot. To hit that 450, to make it a glancing enough blow with your knee while still rolling into it and everything else being okay. Like, when she got up there, I thought, is she just going to squash both of them, or how's this going to work? And it wasn't a senton where you can like lightly touch it, or a swanton where you can usually lightly touch it and roll into it. It was a 450, and she just got the glancing blow you needed there.
Yeah.
Perfect execution on that spot. Unbelievable job by Bianca Belair to hit that. And then with the way the finish went, because of Jade getting suplexed, she gets suplexed and tumbles into Bianca, and they get tripped up. And that's why you got the 1-2-3 finish. It was kind of a creative way to have Bianca and Jade there, but not able to break it up and lose the title. So I thought it was a really creative way to do it. Do we want to talk about the women's tag division in general in the future here, and Bianca, Jade, and where we go from here? Or do we want to talk about that on Monday?
We can discuss that now, but briefly, I did want to say one thing, Chris. Perhaps most important of all, after this, now that a pair of witches are champions, it's possible that the women's tag team championships are no longer officially cursed.
Yeah, they never went back to that. Remember that? That was like a fun little storyline a year or so ago. Also,
no, they did. Didn't they do like a seance or something for them? I'm trying to remember. I forget
remember exactly what it was, but But by the way, did they call them Unholy Union in this? Or did
They
just call them
exchange it.
Alba
So
Fire and
it's
Isla
so
Dawn?
I remain so frustrated by the women's tag team division, the standpoint that these teams they have tandem finishers. Those moves don't have names. Their teams don't have names. I mean, especially the champions. Whenever a team is going to become new champions, they should have a name. It's ridiculous the KCs don't have one. It's ridiculous that Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair don't have one. Zoe Stark and Shayna Baszler. These are established women's tag teams. Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell should have a name. They are Unholy Union, but when they come out to the ring, they're announced as Alba Fire and Isla Dawn. And I don't understand it. It would be like saying, instead of the Street Profits, Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins. That's not what they do. They say Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins, the Street Profits. So why can't they be Unholy Union? It's a great name. And the reason it's their name is they used to be rivals and now they're together and they're an unholy gimmick. So like it all fits. So sorry, that was a total tangent for me. What were you wanting?
No, but I was
what were you wanting to talk
confused
about?
as to whether
Yeah.
I was confused as to whether or not they are that, and if they're still the witches and whatnot. We never really got.
Well,
them
that's a
built
great
up
point.
heading into this.
That's actually a great point because ever since they got moved over to Raw, Isla Dawn has looked a lot more normal than she did previously when she was on SmackDown, and certainly her gimmick prior to that. And Alba Fire isn't necessarily moving in that direction. So it seems like they're women whose look fits the Unholy Union gimmick, even though they're no longer technically witches. That's probably the best way to put it.
Do we think this is a short title reign? Do we think Bianca Jade are going to split up from this or what? Because I thought that Bianca and Jade had really elevated the titles to a level that they had not been at in a very long time.
It's going to be interesting. Sorry, go ahead.
And so, you know, I understand, we talked about the reasons why you do that change now, but I still, we also said, hey, who's going to take down Jade and Bianca? There's not that many people left. So I don't know if
I thought we came up with that.
It was a tough spot.
That's my frustration. I thought that we, really the Go Home show on our Ultimate Preview, we said, hey, Nia Jax and Tiffany Stratton. I actually said that 3 or 4 weeks ago, where I was like, that's the team. You put them together, they make a lot of sense. It made all the sense in the world. But again, don't forget, Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill were not beaten here. They lost the titles, but they weren't pinned. Right. So the question is, who could actually pin them as a tag team? So it's an interesting question, right? I would love it, Unholy Union to be one thing if they were built up and we've been waiting for them to win a title. We've just been waiting for them to get on TV. So if they have a 1 month run or a 6-week run with the title, they defend it on each show, including NXT, and they get 3 title defenses. And then Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill get a rematch, let's say, at Money in the Bank, and then win them back. I'm fine with that.
Me too.
I don't want it to be a situation where like they're on SmackDown Friday, they lose the titles back.
No, I agree. And again, if you have a Bianca Jade Nia Tiffany match, that's how you make the tag team titles feel like a big freaking deal, man. When you have superstars that are competing for them.
And when you can't take the titles off a team and other superstars need to team up, because I've talked about this in the past with the women's tag team titles. It's clearly been a booking issue for WWE. What you need to have is every woman on the roster, maybe not every woman, many women on the roster, have a friend that can be a partner when they're not involved in the singles division. So a great example is Nia Jax and Tiffany Stratton. If they're competing for a singles title, if Nia's going after the WWE Women's Championship at SummerSlam, then sure, Tiffany has her back and they're friends and do whatever they do, but that's what she's doing. When she loses that match, let's make believe she loses that match, then she decides, hey, let's go after the tag team titles. Boom, you have a ready-made partner, you have a team name, you have a finisher name, like it's all set up. That's the best way to book the women's tag team division so that you have your relatively limited, I mean, when you compare the number of women in WWE to the number of men, it's vastly different. So how do you make the most of that division? You team them up occasionally when needed, but consistently so that it doesn't look like you're just piecing it together. And the hope is, right now, that is what they're doing. It seems like it is with Nia and Tiffany, also Bianca and Jade, Bayley and Naomi. Obviously, there's also established teams, the KCs, Unholy Union, Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark to a similar degree. I'm forgetting one off the top of my head. Indy Hartwell and Candice LeRae. So there's a lot of like legit women's teams or teams that make sense. The key, though, is consistent booking of the division. And my hope is now that these titles are on a pair of women who are legit friends and know how to work together and have not been featured much, that I'm not saying they're going to elevate the titles. I hope the titles elevate them. And Unholy Union now becomes something that can be on the show regularly, and you believe that they can win matches when you see them.
Well, they need to elevate the titles too. The titles really need to be elevated.
But they haven't been established enough to elevate the titles. Jade and Bianca need to elevate the titles even further.
Right. They need the titles to elevate.
They have to take them back. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah,
okay.
That works.
That wraps up the WWE Clash at the Castle instant analysis. One other note I wanted to say about the kickoff. We're going to talk about the kickoff and the post-show press conference again, a lot more on Tuesday's WWE show. I just wanted to mention that this thing was like a rock concert, Chris. Did you get a chance to watch it? When they were singing every lyric of Triple H's entrance, and Cody Rhodes, by the way, did a stage dive during this. It was really electric. Maybe not a stage dive.
He didn't dive.
He surfed the crowd. He surfed the crowd. Let me correct my terminology.
Smartly. That's the right way to do it.
He crawled into the crowd.
It was an awesome scene. The visual of it, like you kind of didn't quite know where the crowd ended because it was just darkness.
Yeah, it was so cool.
But the crowd, it looked really cool. It did look like a concert. That was really, really fun.
Cool. We will spend a lot more time talking about the kickoff, the post show, and any second thoughts or second look reactions we have from WWE Clash at the Castle on Tuesday's WWE episode. Before we get out of here, it is time to discuss both our pre-show and post-show grades. A reminder of where we stood heading into WWE Clash at the Castle. On the Ultimate Preview, the Silver King thought this would be a 91 out of 100 type of show, an A-. Vintage Chris Vanini, my cohort here, thought it would be a little bit better, 93 out of 100, also an A-. In terms of our pre-show expectation grade poll on Twitter, at Getting Overcast, 54% of you said A, 42% B, and 4% C. That was a flat 90 out of 100 in A-. So slightly lower, Chris, than both of us, but nevertheless, all the exact same letter grade. Now that the show has ended, as always, I allow you to go first. What is your final grade for WWE Clash at the Castle?
Came in expecting an A-, and I'm going to leave with an A-.
Okay.
Because it turned out to be, I had predicted everything correctly except for the women's tag team change, which is fine, but nothing like I was major. Really good matches. Nothing that quite stood out as like momentous, like real big moments. And so it's not an A level, but every single match was good. Wrestling was good. Had a title change on it. Thought Drew McIntyre might win, had a couple moments. The I Quit match was as good as you could make it. And so I'm going to stick right there with an A-.
And what is your number grade, though?
I'll do the 93, which is what I had.
So it exactly hit your expectation.
Yes, it was because it almost predicted almost everything that happened. If Drew had won, this probably goes into A territory.
Oh God, if Drew wins, this is an A show. Yeah, I mean, not even a question for me. Do you want to hear my grade or the fans' grade first? The Getting Overheads, your call.
Go with the fans.
All right. So the Getting Overheads on Twitter voted in our poll, just like the pre-show poll. You can get it by following us at Getting Overcast. 35% A+ to A, 50% A- to B+, 15% B to B-, and 0% C+ or lower. That averages out to a 91.4. So close to rounding up, but it does not. So they're at a 91 A-. They're in the same letter grade as you, and I am going to be in the same letter grade as both of you. In fact, I'm going to split the difference. This was slightly better than my expectation, even if I did not necessarily agree with the Drew McIntyre booking, and I think that, had it happened, just takes this show into another stratosphere. The reaction that would have gotten, or if we got somehow a surprise and Styles beat Cody for the WWE title. Similarly, I think that would have taken this into a different strata. That said, I will note the 3 men's matches were all better than I expected them to be. And actually, now that I think about it, both women's matches were better than I expected them to be. So it exceeded my expectations from an in-ring standpoint. It was more the booking aspect, what they did with Sami and Gable, McIntyre not winning the title, that somewhat disappointed me. So I went up in one area, down in another, and I arrived pretty much back where I was. I'm going to be at 92 out of 100. So not dissimilar from my pre-show expectation, but slightly higher. So we came in, all of us, in totality, expecting an A-, and that is exactly what WWE gave us. Chris, it's going to be really interesting for me. We've already gone through a couple of these 3-week build premium live events. We got another coming up. WWE Money in the Bank qualification matches are beginning Monday night on Raw in Corpus Christi, Texas. We're going from Glasgow to Corpus Christi. We're also most likely getting the debut on Monday night of Nightbird, White Rabbit, Wyatt Family, Uncle Howdy, whatever the hell this thing is going to be. It's probably coming Monday night on Raw, again in Corpus Christi. And if you don't know why I keep saying that, it's because historically it's one of the worst crowds in WWE history. So I'm really curious to see what's going to happen on this Raw. And I think we're going to have an absolute ton to discuss on our WWE show this coming Tuesday. I will remind everyone, it'll be a second look for WWE Clash at the Castle. We will have some news items to discuss, some interesting stuff as well, said by Paul Levesque about CM Punk. In fact, he used his government name, Phil Brooks, in the press conference. So some other stuff coming out from that. We have the entirety of SmackDown that we did not already discuss on this show. And of course, everything that happens Monday night on Raw. Chris, this Tuesday WWE show, as usual here at the Getting Over Wrestling podcast, is going to be loaded.
Yes, it is. It never stops. We got another pay-per-view coming up soon, and this is the schedule that we're on. But I guess wrap up real quick. Scotland was awesome. France was awesome. It's really cool that Europe's getting these shows and delivering on them and raising the bar for what we should expect from crowds.
You know, that's a good point. We actually didn't talk about Glasgow whatsoever. I thought if we're going to rank them, Lyon, Puerto Rico, Glasgow, but that's not an insult. I mean, they were great. They were just third in that grouping.
Yeah, I mean, would we have to put Wales in that conversation or London at Money in the Bank last year as well? I mean,
if we're going to include those,
so plentiful.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if we're going to include. I think it was on par with Wales, if memory serves. That was 2 years ago.
Yeah, I would just compare it to Lyon this year. I mean, those are the two back to back that we can compare it to. I would put Lyon over as well.
Yeah,
just because, in large part, because I think the Phenomenal chant was more fun than the Cody Rhodes chant.
That's true.
We'll see what happens when they get to Berlin later this year. Because that'll be another different language, different type of culture.
Oh, don't forget. Let's not forget that we're in Toronto for WWE Money in the Bank. So we're gonna get a great crowd in Toronto. Then we're gonna get a SummerSlam crowd in Cleveland. Now I'm not normally putting over Cleveland. I'm just saying it's gonna be a SummerSlam crowd, and then we're getting Berlin. So we should get 3 more huge crowds. By the way, really interesting. I should just note the SmackDown locations that WWE is going to be running, like they're going to be in Chicago this week. So just to put everyone's mind in the same part as ours, okay? They're going Glasgow for SmackDown, Glasgow for Clash at the Castle, Corpus Christi, Texas for Raw, and then Chicago for SmackDown as a 4-show back-to-back. So I cannot wait to see what Corpus Christi is going to be like. We've been shitting on them for 2 weeks and really like 2 years.
I've not said anything.
Well, because you live in Texas and you don't want to get shot. Yeah, you don't want to get shot because if you shit on them, you're not that far away. Here's what I'm going to say. This is a challenge. Corpus Christi, I hope that I eat my words this coming Tuesday on our show. I hope you live up. You don't have to be Glasgow. Just be as good as like Savannah, you know? Or give me another city, Atlanta. Be better. Be better than you used to be. And I hope to praise you this coming Tuesday on the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. Let's wrap it up. We went longer than we should have. I appreciate all of you listening to this WWE Clash at the Castle instant analysis. I feel better from my illness coming out of the show than I did coming in. So that's a huge positive as well. We will be back on Tuesday with your WWE episode. We'll be back on Thursday with your next NXT and AEW episode. And don't forget, we have a fun announcement for you this Tuesday on the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. On the way out, allow me to hit you with a couple reminders. First, this show
is all about the fire.
So head over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Leave a 5-star rating on Apple. Take a little extra time. Leave a 5-star written review. If you do, we will read it live right here on the show. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Getting Overcast for episode drops, news, analysis, highlights, all of that good stuff. It's also where you can send questions and comments for the show. And for those of you who did during Clash at the Castle, We'll read those this coming Tuesday, but you can also vote in our pre and post show polls as you heard us discuss on this episode. Please also remember,
I happen to love the number 5.
and I hope you do as well, $5 a month, $50 for the entire year. You can become an official Getting Overhead. Visit buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Sign up. You get instant reaction audio to all the major TV shows and exclusive news posts every Friday. Again, buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Thanks once again to Vintage Chris Vanini for joining. This is the Silver King, Adam Silverstein, signing off and leaving you with just 3 final words. Bye for now.